In this world, you are undead, cast into a dying and corrupt land, where ancient lords have fallen and only ruins remain. To survive, you must rise, fall, and rise again. So for the past week, I've been playing my very first playthrough of any Souls game, and that is Dark Souls Remastered. And finally, after actually beating the game, I was thinking, wait a minute, I've actually checked out a Dark Souls mod before. Let me see if they've updated it. And yeah, since that video, they have been seriously hard at work. So let me go back to the start and show you guys how this all works. So to actually get started in this mod, you are actually going to have to find some structures right here in the overworld. Where the first main structure you want to look out for is this sort of abandoned church right here that we actually did the intro in. And this abandoned looking structure right here is actually going to be the key to travel to the Dark Souls dimension via this dude right here. And if you go ahead and actually try and right click this, you might be able to tell that, you know, nothing exactly is going to happen. And that is because we do actually need to insert like a key right here in the center, and that is the Crest of Artorias. And if you were to actually look at the recipe for this, you can see that you are going to need a couple of ruined fragments, as well as a soul of the undead, which is the soul of a nameless undead who has long gone hollow. And at first you might be thinking, I have no idea where to get any of that stuff, which is where we move on to the second main structure you're going to be looking out for, and this is the graveyard. And yeah, a little bit of a warning with this structure, you are going to actually have to fight some guys with this spawner in the middle here, but realistically this is just going to be the least of your worries when you do travel to the dimension. And so in this graveyard, if you actually go ahead and dig out some of these graves right here, some of them are actually going to have some chests which will hold the ruin fragments that we're looking for. And then to get the other part, to actually craft the crest, I'm pretty sure all you need to do is go ahead and actually just kill a bunch of these guys, and eventually I'm pretty certain that they will actually drop the soul of undead right here. So yeah, it might take a little bit of time actually farming these guys, but at least then you do get used to some of the combat, which I do recommend pairing this with something like epic fight so you can actually get like the full Dark Souls experience. But regardless, when you do actually have your crest right here, all you need to do is simply right click the actual bottom of the block right there. You will be given a homeward bone, which if you know Dark Souls will basically return you to the regular overworld. So if you ever wanted to just, you know, quickly get out in a hurry, you can definitely use that to get away. And then another simple right click to interact with the bottom block. And just like that, we are in Lordran right here. And it does look pretty similar because the whole like teleporting thing actually places you right back to one of these structures, which is really cool. But as you can tell from what's around us right here, we are definitely not in the overworld anymore. And just by walking up this hill right here, you can see some of the enemies and some of the creatures of this universe right there. We've actually got a black knight just in the fog. Like, look at that. That is absolutely terrifying. We have the butterflies, this giant castle. I mean, like, one thing that this mod does really, really well is that it really sells the effect of like actually being back in Dark Souls Remastered. Like, I know I played it recently, but it really does. And so now that you've actually made it to this dimension, let me go ahead and show you guys some of the structures that might be pretty useful to actually check out. Just like the classic bonfire right here, you can see that all the buildings and everything in this mod are so well designed. And so when it comes to actual loot in the dimension, you are going to find a bunch of like regular stuff right here that we can use, like gunpowder, emeralds, and even a couple of bits of iron. But you do want to get your hands on as many Dark Souls items as you can. So this right here being the large amber, and it says give it to the blacksmith to make unique weapons. So if we go ahead and grab that and actually head out, the dimension is also filled with a whole bunch of different ruins and like mini structures like this one scattered all around the place, which actually does a really, really great job of like filling the gaps between all the major structures. So that way you're not just, you know, walking through the forest for like 10 hours. And that's without me even blabbering on about how amazing this atmosphere is with like the falling leaves and everything, the ambient sounds, the fact that some of these are actually poisonous when you walk over them, and even these dudes just hanging around in the swamps as well. But by far one of the best structures you can actually come across early is the blacksmith behind me right there. And so if we actually head inside here, you will be met with Andre the blacksmith, literally pulled straight out of the games. And if you actually go ahead and try and interact with him, nothing exactly is going to happen because you do need to pick up a large amber that we picked up all the way back at the campfire. And by simply right clicking in with that, we can actually go ahead and trade with them for a whole bunch of unique weapons. And you can see that the currency is of course souls right here, so the more souls you have, the more powerful stuff you are going to get. And at first you might be thinking that these are quite expensive, but realistically you are definitely going to need weapons like this to actually take on the bosses. But Andre the Giant isn't the only trader that you can actually find out here. You can also find these regular merchants that look really, really sick, just chilling out by the campfire. Nothing too crazy in the loot barrels there, but if you go ahead and trade with him, this is where we can get things like armor. We can also get specialized weapons. Again, all using souls as the currency right there. So let me go ahead and show you guys some of the main bosses you can come across. And you'll be able to tell as soon as you're anywhere near a boss because of that huge boss bar at the top there. But this structure right here in front of us is the Asylum Demon boss fight. And as soon as we actually head in here, you'll see that this mod does not mess around when it comes to like the textures and the actual models of these guys. Each one is so accurate to the games. It's really, really sick. And like I mentioned before, having something like epic fight or better combat with this would definitely feel a hell of a lot better than just, you know, regular Minecraft combat. But if we were to go ahead and actually switch into survival mode, this dude is going to aggro on us, and hopefully I can actually show you guys some of the really cool attacks that he does. So if we get up really close, he is going to swing his giant sort of like hammer right there and doing his classic jumping attack just like that as well. It's really weird. Like it's really bizarre playing the games and then just like coming to this mod because it's like it's scarily accurate to the games. Oh, there we go. So if we actually go ahead and just crit this guy out, there we go. We actually get a whole 350 souls just from that boss fight. So if you did fancy some of those weapons from Andre or the other trader, I would say the best way of actually farming these souls is literally just to keep going for the boss fights. And so after actually taking out the asylum demon, we are granted the loot that he was hiding right here. So we get like different armor sets, all from the games again, even some weapons as well. But if you have played the Dark Souls games, you will know that one of the main sort of things that is going to help you actually survive this stuff is having an Estus flask, which we actually have some shards in this chest. And if you go ahead and collect enough of these with a little glass bottle in the middle, you will be granted an Estus flask, which say if you did manage to take a little bit of damage just like that, all we need to do is actually hover over this and consume it like any other food item, just like that. And we will, of course, get a bunch of that health back. So yeah, definitely recommend getting your hands on some of these Estus flasks because they are an absolute lifesaver. And if you did check out my previous video on this mod, you'll definitely recognize some of those previous structures, but this one really just tops it off. And that structure in question is Sen's Fortress right here. And I mean, compared to the other structures, this one just goes absolutely above and beyond. And just for scale, you can actually see just how enormous this build is. It's absolutely ginormous. And just like in the game, as soon as we enter this place, there are going to be a bunch of these like snake dudes hanging around, and these are a real pain to actually deal with. And so if we actually head up the stairs here, you will realize that it wasn't just for show, because this whole place is actually completely kitted out, pretty much nearly one for one how it is in the game, you know, minus the giant swinging axes. But you know, I'm really not sure how they'd manage to pull that off in Minecraft. This fortress here is going to be a pretty hefty battle to actually get through, but it is going to hold a very decent amount of loot right here. So we've got things like spears, we've even got some demon titanite, which is pretty damn valuable in the game. And again, just be very wary of these serpents, because these guys are just completely littered all over the structure. So after fighting your way through all the different serpents and all the different mimics and stuff that are actually in this fortress, and waiting for us right at the top right here is actually its own titanite demon. Like, you really can't get any more accurate than this. Like, look at the weapon as well. Oh my god. And since we're at the top of Sen's Fortress, I can now show you guys some of the many armor sets that are actually in this mod. Where we start out with the absolute classic like elite knight set right here, complete with like the bandolier and everything like that. The helmet looks really cool. All of these armors are actually fully 3D as well, which is such a nice touch and definitely suits the vibe of this whole dimension. And as you can tell, they do look really cool when you're actually wearing them. We also get Solaire's armor right here, complete with a red feather on top, which is like a little separate thingy, and of course the sun logo on his chest right there. But you know, if you know about this guy, you definitely know. We get the pyromancer stuff, which actually comes with a really cool looking hood right here. So if you wanted to go for like a pyromancer or sorcery build right here in this mod, you can of course wear this outfit, and maybe even throw in a couple of magic mods just so it can suit the playstyle a little bit better. We have the mimic helmet right here, which is absolutely terrifying, but does look pretty goofy when you're actually running around fighting things with this on. After that one, we have another one of my favorites right here, and this is the Katarina armor, also known as like the Onion Man armor. And this armor set right here, along with the actual Havel armor set all the way on the right here, are actually very special because they are super heavy armor. But the mod actually has a way of getting around this, so you don't actually get any of the effects. Because if I was to actually go ahead and throw this stuff on, you will see that we are going to get permanent slowness 2 right there. After the Onion Man right there, we also get the Black Knight armor, very classic, and also a giant pain to actually get this stuff in the game. And so after a lot of these armor sets right here, including the Black Knight, we can also get the armor of some of the NPCs or some of the enemies in this mod. So like the Channeler right here, we also have the Boulder Knights, which are really cool. These guys actually come with a really sick like red cape. Got some stuff from the Dark Wraiths right here with like the skeleton in the hood. And then from one of the bosses, Pinwheel, we can actually get all the different masks from that. So we can have the mask of the father right here, which looks just as horrific as you'd imagine. We get the mask of the mother, and finally the child mask as well. And I'm pretty certain that when you do actually fight Pinwheel, they will actually drop at least one of these masks. So again, they really are keeping to the actual base game here. So one little tip is that when you are wearing like super heavy armor like the Havel armor right here, just like the Onion armor, this one is going to be very slow to actually move around in, unless you get your hands on Havel's ring right here, which allows you to carry heavy armor. And as you can see, we are now no longer slowed and we can move just as regular. So yeah, just like I said at the beginning, anything you find, make sure you grab it because it could be very useful in the long run. So on top of all the other bosses like Pinwheel behind me right here looking absolutely menacing, even Artorias himself in his own like built-in arena right here, and of course who could forget the absolutely iconic gargoyles right here, and that axe that they actually have on their tail is very good. So if you do kill these guys, Definitely be on the lookout for that right there because it is very, very good. So with all that said, I would say that you are definitely on your way to beating Dark Souls in Minecraft. And yeah, don't get me wrong, there is an absolute ton more stuff to actually check out in this dimension, as well as a bunch more creatures and mobs like the Channeler up there. But I don't want to spoil every single thing that you might actually run into. But that right there is just a little bit of a taster of what this mod actually has to offer. So if you enjoyed this video and you got a little bit of nostalgia from Dark Souls 1, be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one.
Bye.